Welcome to the podcast, where we introduce you to incredible humans who share their journeys with the mission to inspire you to harness your own inner tenacity to drive your life and career forward. And now, your host, Adam Posner.
What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the podcast. It is day 3. Live from Transform 2025 in Las Vegas. Thank you to our friends at Greenhouse. And I'm here with my new friend, Cori Faro. How you doing?
Hi, I'm doing well, thanks. How are you?
Pretty good.
Yeah.
We wrapped up our panel.
We did.
Our panel on candidate experience. I thought it went pretty well.
I thought it went great. It was a very natural interaction. I think it was important.
It was a good chat. We were
Yes.
joined by Greenhouse's own Ariana Moon. So it's a fantastic conversation. And we're going to talk a little bit about some of the things we got into over there. But before we do so, kindly introduce yourself to my audience. Tell us who you are and what you do best over at Okta.
All right. Well, hi, everyone. My name is Cori Faro. I run the global recruiting team over at Okta. We're an identity management company. We have about 7,000 employees worldwide, and I have the pleasure, like I said, of running the global recruiting organization. I've been at Okta for about just over 4 years now, and I'm based out of my home office in Denver. So everyone in Denver watching, shout out to you. Yeah, I love it.
I want to just quickly talk a little bit about your journey.
Yeah.
How did you fall into talent? Like, did you study it in school, or were you
No.
like a lot of us that kind of
No.
fell into this profession?
I
Or
fell.
In my case, I got pushed in.
I still have yet to meet somebody that went to college to be a recruiter. So if you're out there, please message me. But
Yeah.
I actually started my career as a sales development representative.
SDR for anyone
So
out
I
there.
started as an SDR, and then I moved into inside sales. And at the time, the lady who was running my inside sales organization was like, Cori, you'd be such a great representation of this program to recruit people to it. And I got hooked.
Well, I think that leads in logically to one of the things we were talking about. A good recruiter is a good salesperson.
Yes,
A
yes.
good recruiter is a good marketer.
Yes.
I actually call myself a marketer. I am a marketer. I'm a recruiter by trade,
Yeah.
marketing background, and I apply those marketing tactics, those sales tactics. Because what it is, at the end of the day, recruiting is sales. Recruiting
It
is a
is,
sales tactic. And if you're going to be a
absolutely.
good recruiter, you have to be able to, and when we say sell the brand, it's being able to compel the brand's narrative and the
Right.
brand's journey. So I'll start off here. How do you work with new recruiters in the organization to bring them up to speed on the Okta story? What does that look like? Some best practices for any organization out there of how to really get all the recruiters on the same page.
I think, we have things like, I'm sure a lot of other organizations, training and enablement and kind of like a recruiter get start package about Okta. I think the best thing that I've seen a recruiter get to do is actually talk to the business.
Exactly.
Talk to different functions with the business and find out what's important to them, how do they work together, and how do they create this synergy? Because I think that is actually what up-levels a recruiter is the business acumen piece. The more you understand about how your business makes money, the more successful you will be recruiting people into the company.
Immerse yourself in the business. That'll
Yes.
also make you invaluable. And let's think about this too. Let's call it what it is. What Okta does isn't natural to everybody. You don't know what it is. And if you're not technical, if you don't fully understand the industry, you may understand the roles. You're coming from another organization, you
Right.
understand the roles, whether you're technical, product, whatever specific area niche that you're working in, but you need to understand what the business does. And you don't have to be, so you don't have to be like, the chief product officer, but you need
No.
to understand it enough to tell the story.
Correct.
To tell the brand story.
You need to fundamentally understand how your business makes money.
I mean, how do we make money?
Exactly.
We sell software. We sell a product. We're
Exactly.
a SaaS
So
company.
what is the need that they're trying to fulfill within the company's trying to fulfill in the business, and what is your part into it? And I find that once a recruiter makes that connection, or really anyone in HR, they also are more fulfilled because they can see themselves the direct line into helping Okta make revenue.
Absolutely.
And so that's motivating for anybody.
Like, don't you want to be part of the business? That's also employee engagement, right? There's a the Venn diagram of employee engagement.
Right.
You want to feel like you're part of something. You want
Yes.
to feel that you're making a difference, and it always comes down to all the cylinders of an organization being on the same page.
Right.
And I know we weren't. Well, I didn't have this here to talk about here,
Yeah.
but curious,
Yes.
and we'll talk about it in a little bit of a generic way. How could someone in leadership best be able to champion their decision makers why to invest in the people ops process? things that you've done along the way. Maybe anyone out there who's struggling, like maybe they want to bring a new technology in, or maybe their organization just doesn't want to invest into it. Why is it so important?
You have to ultimately fulfill a need, right? And you need, in how I sell things across the business is there has to be a need, and it has to save either time or money. And money or time is money.
Time is money.
Right? So if you think about an example through an interview process, how many folks within your organization are taken away from their day-to-day job to interview candidates? Like we look at that macro number and say, if we're going to slice in a technology or a different process, how is it ultimately going to make us more efficient and give the team back time so that they can get back to what they're doing every single day? So I think for me, that is the key. And again, that every single employee's time is a direct correlation to how much money your organization is going to save.
Have you, or do you do this exercise, and I'm going to mansplain it for everyone out there, of putting an hourly rate to everybody who is interviewing a candidate and actually saying, this is how much it actually costs in hours of our company to interview somebody? Are we doing this efficiently? Like,
yeah.
I feel like that's a way, talking numbers to an executive officer.
Oh, absolutely.
Like, do you realize that I'm making this number up there? Do you know that we're spending $10,000 in human resource capital to interview one candidate?
Yeah.
Where can we find efficiencies within that?
I also am a big believer of having kind of a trigger point within the interview process that says, okay, let's take a pause, let's recalibrate, let's look at where we've been and where we want to go and where we've kind of making missteps along the way. You can't just keep doing the same thing over and over again, right? That's the definition of insanity.
It is.
And so a lot of times we look, okay, if we've had 3 or 4 candidates on site and no one's gotten through because of this or because of something.
Let's calibrate, recalibrate.
Exactly. Let's take it back to the studs and figure out, okay, well, I guarantee you there wasn't something wrong with all 4 of these people. It was probably on our side, alignment on our side. And so I think that's just another example of how, as a recruiter, you can actually be more of an advisor.
100%. And we talk a little bit, well, I've been talking about it too, is how to future-proof yourself as a recruiter in this day and age.
Yes.
And whether that be leaning more towards into the HRBP style, where you're immersing yourself more in the business, as you mentioned, immersing yourself in the technology, being invaluable. And we've talked about it ad nauseum, like how AI is going to replace recruiters. I said, pause on that. It's not going to replace all. It's a very blanket statement, right? Like, you're not going to replace all recruiters at all industries.
And I truly don't believe that.
The elements of it, as we said on the stage panel,
Yeah.
you know, the things that can be automated, sourcing,
Yes.
screening, and scheduling, so we can have more time.
Exactly. It's ways that you can insert AI into your process that allows your interviewers to either be more efficient, to actually concentrate on their interview. I gave the example on the panel of that. If you think about when you're interviewing someone, especially virtually, you know, you're copiously taking notes, and that can be distracting. That can be, okay, I want to make sure that I'm writing things in a coherent way. I'm not actually listening to the interviewer. So how can we take that process away? So as an interviewer, you can intently listen and ask the right questions and make sure that you're getting the holistic view of the candidate too.
I want to shift gears for a moment, and thank you so much for that perspective. I'm going to throw out another acronym that everyone loves, EVP. Right? And we talk about employee value proposition. Take us to school. What does that mean for everyone out there who is not familiar with that?
Yeah, so employee value proposition, the easiest way to think about it is kind of another acronym with them. What's in it for me? Have you heard that one before?
I like Theo, figure it out.
Yeah. What's in it for me? So it's essentially what your company's commitment is to a candidate should they join your company. What does it mean to be an employee of Okta? What does it look like? What does it feel like? What are the types of projects you're going to work on? And so we try to really be globally consistent and locally relative. So we operate in countries all across the world, and what it means to work in an office in Bangalore is much different than it is in Japan versus it is in San Francisco. So again, what is it like to be in that market at your certain employee level? And what are opportunities that you're going to get being in that specific space?
What is the biggest challenge from a leadership perspective of keeping that consistency with training and ensuring that everyone is aligned with the mission and the EVP?
I think it's, like you said, I think it's just pure alignment. I think it actually comes down to just the studs of that, of just making sure that everybody's on the same page and that we are doing our best to over-communicate. So we're over-communicating to candidates, to interviewers, to the panel, everything along the way so that as a team, we're on the same page so that the employee can really feel that. Because that's part of the employee value prop too, right? We can sell one thing, but how are we living it? How are we living it in our day-to-day interactions with employees, with candidates, or just anyone?
Hey everyone, we'll jump right back into the conversation, but first let's talk about a game changer in hiring, Greenhouse. Greenhouse is the leading hiring platform that helps companies get measurably better at hiring. Because when it comes to building great teams, every hire should be the right hire. With Greenhouse, you don't just fill roles, you transform your hiring with a structured process that ensures fairness, removes bias, and enables data-driven decisions. AI-powered workflows in Greenhouse streamline every step from sourcing top talent to personalizing the candidate experience, allowing recruiters to focus on strategic, high-impact hiring that drives real business outcomes. The result? A faster, more efficient process that turns talent into a true competitive advantage. Over 7,500 companies, including HubSpot, Duolingo, Gong, JD Power, and Scout24, trust Greenhouse to optimize their hiring process and take candidates from talented prospects to top performers. And it's not just the best hiring platform, it's also a great place to work. Greenhouse has been recognized by Fortune, Inc. magazine, Glassdoor, Forbes, and more as a top workplace. Want to hire better, faster, and more fairly? Visit greenhouse.com today and get ready to hire for what's next. All right, back to the show.
Let's shift gears before we bring it home here and talk about leadership and mentorship. We are obviously in a multi-generational workforce.
Yes.
I'm starting to adopt myself. I'm understanding Zennial, and I'm like, that's kind of where I feel like I'm a Gen X, but I'm also part millennial. I'm like, where do I kind of fit into this?
Yeah.
It's kind of interesting here, but we live in this workforce where you have, Gen Alpha's coming up, which is crazy.
Yeah.
But the millennials and even the Gen Zers, they are the mid managers and early leaders right now.
Yeah.
And so much has changed as far as how they communicate, how they like to be communicated to. What are some challenges and wins that you have as yourself going into a leader of how do I mentor this younger workforce coming up? How do I enable them to one day take my job?
Yeah, that is the ultimate goal, multiple lines of succession, right? As a leader. So I like to be very clear on communication and expectations of my managers. And what that allows that to do is just provide an output of, okay, I expect XYZ at this time. The how, I don't necessarily care about, right? So what it allows somebody to do is have the freedom to work in their own way, to do things in a way that feels very natural and authentic to them. I'm a big believer that if somebody doesn't feel like they can bring their whole self to work and be authentic to who they are, they're not going to work hard for you, right?
I mean, simple as that, right? Like, is it that what it comes down to?
Yes, and if you put them in a box and say, you have to do it this way, this is the process, you're never going to get that amazing new creative ideas and all of these things that different generations bring. And that's the ultimate goal, right? Is having a diversity of thought and way people do things. And so allowing them the time and the space, but again, being very clear about your expectations and what the outcomes are.
Yeah, it's a fantastic perspective there too.
Yeah.
And as you're saying this answer, I'm listening and I'm like, are there companies that align recruiters by job titles, by age? Like, for example, if I'm a younger person in my career as a recruiter, am I talking to younger talent? Because there is a gap, generational gap. And I'm like, I think it should be ubiquitous across the board. How you do anything is how you do everything.
Yeah.
But it comes down to communication. For example, I always ask my candidates, how do you prefer we communicate?
Right.
Some people love text.
Yes.
And I actually love text.
Yes.
It's just, for me, it's easy to, I'm also fine on email too, but I like asking people. Another question, I don't know if you guys do this.
Yeah.
How do you want me to tell you the next steps? Like, and I always kind of, and they're like, what do you mean? I'm like, well, if it's not just scheduling, what if I have to tell you that you're not moving forward in the process? So I like to manage expectations.
Managing expectations is huge. And I also think,
some people don't want to talk on the phone unless you're far along in the process.
No, they don't. And I would hope that by that part of the process, a recruiter would know, right?
Like that's
the personal touch, right? And that's what I truly believe AI cannot. It can't replace, right? It can't replace the talking on the phone, the human connection, whether it be an email, text, or call. But I think that is also a differentiator in this world, in this new AI world with all this different technology. Is how are we going to stay relevant, and how are we going to have that human connection? Because ultimately, choosing a new job and leaving it affects so many part of the human, right? It's family, it's connection, it's sometimes where they live. It's a very stressful ordeal.
Yeah, it's a top 3 life decision thing after your spouse and all the other Maslow's hierarchy, right? Like it's job. How am I going to provide for myself and my family?
Right.
And do I enjoy spending the majority of my time working with these people in this organization?
Right.
To be aligned.
Right. And I don't know about you, but I don't want a bot telling me where I should go or what job. It's again, you're joining the company for the employee value proposition, for the business, and for the people. And so you need to know people during the interview process.
Cori, what's keeping you up at night these days in the world of talent and people? What's spinning your wheels?
Hiring faster, but I think that's never going to change as a leader. Actually, employee value proposition, and we're also thinking a lot about where we're hiring and being really strategic about where we're hiring. So hiring around kind of our office locations, just so that it's easier for people to collaborate in person. And so I'm thinking a lot about that. How do I get the best talent, but at the same time give them flexibility to work in a way that's authentic to them?
Comes down to trust, right?
It does.
If we are hiring somebody, we are trusting you to do the job we hired you for.
Yes.
Output, outcomes over hours.
Exactly.
And I think the companies that are embracing that right now, and listen, it's hard to put a blanket statement on everyone should work remote, everyone should work in an office. It's hard because obviously it's industry specific.
It is hard.
And some roles can't be in an office. But at the end of the day, if a company says, listen, we trust you, we're going to give you choice, options, and let you decide to set it up. But I also see the other side from a team building perspective and collaboration. So there's no one answer for everything.
There is, and I really don't think you can replicate the in-person connection and collaboration.
I'm 100% with you. I know a lot of people out there would disagree with us, and they are the first ones to disagree with you. Yes. But again, it's like, well, yeah, you're a coder, and guess what? You sit behind a screen all day, and you don't need to have it, but then you talk to people who are in product, marketing. There's other roles where maybe you're not an IC, right? You're not an independent contributor, and you need that collaboration. Now you don't have it because that's not a choice to work in an office.
Right. I'll give you an example. Last week I was in our San Francisco headquarters, and a big thing that my team's thinking about is our employee value proposition across all of our different locations. And we ran into a lady who runs talent marketing for me. We ran into about 4 different employees who told us their amazing career journeys at Okta. One person had been there for 10 years, one 12 years, gone through all different. And so it's, if it was just a Zoom environment, I never would have organically ran into these people and got this story. So again, I absolutely see the value in both. And at Okta, we're actually trying to thread the needle in between.
And it's a delicate act there. So let's finish strong here. What is really I'm gonna take it up a level. Professionally, not just in talent. What has really put a smile on your face in the last couple of years? What is it? What do you love? What do you love about your job? Why do you love what you do? You can't say your people. Here's a trick question.
Okay, I was going to say my team. They bring me so much joy.
That you could say. Okay. You can't just say a blanket statement the people. I'm over that.
No. So I think why I love my job and I feel so grateful to be in it is that an example is I've been on the road for the past 2 weeks. My team is incredible. Like the engine keeps humming. Even a lot of times better. I was just telling somebody on my team, I should leave more often.
You're the login, Cori.
Exactly, I must be. But that to me is what gives me the biggest sense of pride. And when you look at succession and multiple lines of succession, I have that on my team. So I just think that that's really rare. And so I'm really grateful for that. It's truly my privilege to manage them.
I love it. Professionally, Cori, for 2025, what's your one word of intention for yourself to put out to the universe?
Oh my gosh, one word of intention, just gratitude. Yeah, I feel really grateful to be in the job I am, to work at the company and in the industry that I'm in. So I just feel really grateful.
Awesome, and I'm grateful for you joining me today.
Yes,
thank you for joining me here on the podcast. Thank you for joining me on the panel. Cori, where can folks find you? Where can they connect? Where can they learn more?
You can find me on LinkedIn. Cori Faro, working at Okta. Please connect with me and reach out. I'd love to hear from you.
Awesome, thank you.
Thanks.
Wisdom is forever, but for us, it's time to go. Thank you for joining us. Luckily, we'll be back with our next episode soon, jam-packed with more incredible humans. Thank you for listening, subscribing, and sharing. To join the conversation, search the podcast Podcast on LinkedIn. And to catch up on past episodes and more info, please visit www.thepodcast.com.